Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mario Zna podcast, unfiltered, without censorship. We fight the global cabal. The whole world is one team against those who want to control our lives, who want to destroy us, our countries, our heritage, tradition, and future. This is why I'm gathering people from all around the world, meeting so beautiful people from all around Europe, United States, Asia, Africa, Latin America. We are all the same in this fight against demonic elite. Today, in the show, in the new episode, from Ireland, from proud Ireland, a proud Irish, an activist, directly from the streets. The streets is where everything is happening right now. My dear friend, Peter Dooley, welcome to Mario Zna podcast.
Thanks very much, Mario, and God bless you, and God bless the people of Serbia and the good people watching your podcast and the great work you do. And thanks very much for inviting me on to speak about our country's struggle against the globalists.
Yeah. Also, I'm very grateful for you for accepting my invitation. Let's start for the first question, because you just said proud nations. Ireland and Serbia are really so much alike. We've been fighting the colonists, those who want to colonize us for centuries, and still we didn't give up. But it seems that when some country is entering the European Union, that it slowly loses its independence and history. So please tell me, what's the situation right now in Ireland, Peter?
Well, in Ireland, we've so many crises, all inflicted on the people by the political establishment. We have a political establishment that don't represent the needs of the citizens of Ireland. We have a political establishment that has abdicated responsibility to Brussels, to technocrats, to bureaucrats, to the president, Ursula von der Leyen. And they are controlling essentially all the policies of our country. And over 70% of the legislation comes from the European Union. And this is very much top down. It's not involving ordinary people. It's all at the behest of all the big global corporate lobbyists implementing their neoliberal policies over Ireland. And a lot of people are struggling because of these policies. There's massive inequality. There's a housing disaster and homeless disaster. Last year in Dublin, nearly 40 people died on the streets of Dublin. This is unprecedented. We have 5,000 children currently in emergency accommodation. We've deliberate policies through the European Union. This has come into Ireland, implemented by, I would call them, branch managers. That's what our leaders are. They're nothing but, they're not representing the people of Ireland. They're representing the billionaires, the big corporate interests, and Brussels, rather than representing the citizens of our proud country. And they've manufactured so many crises. We've a health disaster, about 1 million people on hospital waiting lists. This is a country with a population of 5.5 million people. We have chaos in terms of the cost of living disaster. Of course, this has been a knock-on effect of what happened during the COVID days and the quantitative easing policies of the European Union. And on top of that, we've seen the fallout from the war in Ukraine in terms of the high energy costs and all the impacts of that proxy war for the United States in Ukraine. And on top of that, we've seen an immigration chaos in Ireland. Like, over the last few years, it's just got completely out of control. And it's working class people that are impacted most of all because of these top-down diktats coming from Brussels. You know, people like von der Leyen are implementing these policies. And again, it's the Irish government are transposing this into Irish legislation. Over 70% of our laws come from Brussels. And as I said, it benefits those at the very top of society, the elites at the top of society.
How long did it took for Ireland to come to this position right now? I was reading yesterday, I was scrolling through X, and I saw a screenshot back from 2003 where newspapers, where statistics was brought to the Irish people and to European people, telling the people that Dublin is the most safest city in the world. But right now we have a totally different situation. It's 2025, and Dublin is among top 10 most dangerous cities in Europe.
Absolutely. Even when I was growing up, it would be very safe to walk around the city, spend time in the city in particular. And it was always a great place for tourists to come and visit. And people were very respectful of our culture, our history, our heritage. But over the last probably 10 years, and it's been sort of fast-tracked in the last 5 to 6 years, since the massive increase in population as well, there is more division in society. And on top of that, there's more crime issues. People just don't feel safe going into Dublin City. There's been a myriad of attacks, knife attacks, stabbings are commonplace in Dublin City, deaths on the streets. This is stuff that really is unprecedented. And at the same time, the government would say, well, they're dealing with it, they're addressing this crisis because we've had an increase in population. But the stats bear out the fact that we've had a massive increase in population. We've had a lack of investment in inner city working class communities. We've seen an influx of immigration on top of this. We've seen an influx of homeless accommodation on top of this as well. And this is all this neoliberal nightmare we're living in Ireland. Like, it's all benefiting the globalists. And that's what the immigration chaos is benefiting as obviously as well, because mass immigration essentially is a race to the bottom in terms of low wages. It benefits the big employers. And at the same time, it's attacking your country's whole heritage, your real culture, identity, your sense of identity. And really it comes down to, Mario, your sense of community in Ireland. And why I've been involved for a long number of years campaigning on many issues around housing and many more issues is because even me growing up and through my family and through previous generations, we had a great sense of community in Ireland, great sense of family and knowing people and people working together and helping each other. You know a person in the local shop, people on the street, and everybody, like a lot of people helped each other. Now it is a very much a dog-eat-dog society. And at the same time, you've seen the fallout of that because of those policies on the streets of our city, which aren't safe completely. Like, knife crime is off the charts. The stabbings as I said, a daily basis in Dublin City. Last week, there was a member of the police force was attacked on the streets. 2 weeks ago, another man was pushed by a police officer and died on the streets of Dublin. Currently, there's an investigation taking place into that. And on top of that, we've seen, many other issues in terms of many foreign nationals coming into the country and creating chaos in the city centre, all at the behest of the political establishment. They've allowed all this to happen. This chaos is really, I would argue, by design, because they've tried to clamp down on people's rights because of all what's going on in society. And again, it's working class communities that are most impacted because of all these policies. It doesn't benefit, if you look at Ireland's the top 10%, the richest 10% people in Ireland, in a recent Central Statistics Office study, said that they had 50% of the wealth. That's 5 times greater than the poorest 50% of the people. So inequalities are getting wider, and you're having the establishment pushing these policies that is causing more chaos in Irish society. And then at the same time, they're trying to clamp down on working class people because they're trying to assert their rights. That's essentially what's happening in Ireland. It's a big class issue in terms of what's happening in Irish society.
Yeah, and when you look the videos from the homeless, tell me firstly, who are those the homeless people on the streets? Are those Irish people or migrants?
Well, over the last few years, we've seen an explosion in the population of Ireland. There was always a homeless disaster. There was a homeless disaster which is precipitated because of the bank bailout back in 2000 and probably 10, nearly 15 years ago, where Ireland were saddled with over 43% of the total European Union banking debt. So the people of Ireland had to bail out the bankers and bondholders across Europe and in Ireland because of their casino antics with Irish society. And at the fallout of this was the Troika came into Ireland, the European Union, IMF, and European Central Bank said to Ireland, you will not build public housing. You will open your door to vulture funds, international investors to come into Ireland to make loads of money. And what happened was they stopped building public housing. When the country was broke in the 50s, we built public housing for people. The country had no money, weren't in the European Union, weren't in the European Economic Community. They built for their citizens. Now, they said, don't build public housing. They opened the door to international vulture funds to come into Ireland to charge extortionate rents. And at the same time, buy up loads of properties and knock down prices, properties that we all bailed out, pay next to no tax on their rental income, and at the fallout is those who are at the most at the margins were evicted from their homes. We've record amounts of evictions now in Ireland because of government policies. And at the same time, we have a massive transfer of wealth, public money given to these international investors to make money from this. And there was a lot of Irish people that were on the streets. And then since the immigration chaos has kicked off, in particular since the war in Ukraine, over nearly 115,000 Ukrainians have come to Ireland. And if you consider, that's about 2.5% of our population. And the governments are fantastic for putting their hands up for Brussels. We're the best boys in the class for Europe. We don't care about, you know, what impacts it has on the Irish people. We just want to be good boys for Brussels. We have a Taoiseach called Micheál Martin, who was part of the government that helped crash the economy back in 2010, and now he is Taoiseach again. Like, it's like people have this collective amnesia in Ireland going on, where a lot of people just, like, they vote with habit and tradition, and they just think, like, well, maybe he could be different this time. But there is a massive, massive change in Irish society, and the immigration chaos as well. Over the last few years, we've seen tents spring up all over Dublin City because of those claiming international protection. And the facts are about 80 to 90% of those people claiming international protection are economic migrants. And that has been admitted by the government. So they're adding more problems onto already serious problems that are there, and they're dividing people. They opened the door to Ukrainians to come into Ireland. They offered them free healthcare. They offered them free accommodation. They went out and did a big publicity campaign to say, open your doors to Ukrainians. And they got people to open their houses. And then they never did that for the Irish citizens. Never did that for Irish citizens. They deliberately created division. So that's essentially a big, that's essentially a very big thing. They've created this massive, massive division in Ireland, where they've left the Irish people to die on the streets, and at the same time, they've opened the door in terms of the immigration racket. It's a massive money-making industry in Ireland. That's all it is. It's a transfer of wealth upwards. It's not humanitarian. It's not about obligations. It's about making money, and it's a big trafficking operation, all at the behest of the European Union. And now the Irish government have tried to sign us up and erode more of Irish sovereignty by signing us up to a European Union migration pact, which essentially means that those in an office in Brussels, the bureaucrats, can now decide how many migrants or immigrants we should take into Ireland. Like, we've next to no sovereignty in Ireland. And even our Taoiseach said in our Houses of the Parliament, which is called Dáil Éireann, when Mario Draghi came. Mario Draghi was the president of the European Central Bank, and Goldman Sachs he worked for, so need I say any more? This guy came to Dublin, and Micheál Martin at the time said, Ireland wants nothing to do with a backward-looking idea of sovereignty. So what does that tell you? This guy has no interest in sovereignty, and at the same time, they're telling people we're gonna defend and stand up for Ukraine. We're gonna stand up for Ukrainian sovereignty. Like, it's just they're ludicrous. They're actually gaslighting the people of Ireland. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, and when you look at it, when you look like the recent events, when you look at that, what has become crazy for me as a Serb, as somebody who is coming from a country which is not in European Union, and this is one of the reasons why I started doing this. So I have a lot of viewers from Serbia who will hear witnessing of people who are living inside of European Union, but also people from other countries inside European Union will probably find a reason and motivate themselves to go out and protest this kind of thing which is happening in their own countries, because we have right now a situation where people from Ireland and from United Kingdom, we will come to Britain and to British government and their policies, but you have people who are considering taking the flag of your country and waving it on the streets, considering it like a heroic act. That's a normal thing. It's supposed to be normal to carry the flag around and to wave your flag. And what's the situation with flags in Ireland right now? Because we see in UK they're basically banning the English flag. in United Kingdom, in England.
Mario, it's insane. It's absolutely insane what's taking place in Ireland. You have to be here to experience it, because what's happening is, over the last number of years, you've seen big protests because of what's been happening in terms of the immigration chaos. So what they've done is that they haven't engaged or got local communities involved with the decision-making process. So basically what they've done is they bought up hotels, guest houses, bed and breakfasts around the country, paid off big guys who own this, and then at the same time people were out protesting because they have no services, because they don't have doctor services, they don't have access to housing, they're struggling to education. And 2 weeks ago there was a massive demonstration on the streets of Dublin for a young boy, Harvey Morrison, 9-year-old boy who had scoliosis. He had waited years to get an operation and died after getting an operation. Finally, late last year, he had a 130-degree curvature on the spine. This is unprecedented. And they say Ireland is such a wealthy country. And now what they're doing is they're attacking working class communities, because people have said, we want to stand up for the interests of Ireland. We want to put the interests of Ireland first. That is in our constitution. That is what the people should represent in terms of the needs of our citizens. But what the Irish government are doing now is gaslighting the people. The local councils here in Dublin as well, there's a number of local councillors who said that it is incitement to hatred to have the Irish flag flying. This is absolutely insane. And what it is it's trying to control the working class people, to make them ashamed of your country, ashamed of your history, ashamed of your heritage, ashamed of your identity. And when we've very little, next to no communities, the next thing they attack is the whole sense of pride and your whole sense of identity. And this is what binds people together. And this is what the globalists hate. And this is what the Irish government are implementing. And they're trying to blame people and call them racist and call them all kinds of names, because they have genuine, legitimate concerns about what's taking place on our own country.
When we talk about influencing Ireland or influencing Serbia from other countries, from the global cabal or WEF, from Davos or other organizations, but before that, and we will come to that, but this is why I said United Kingdom. This is why I said England, because also like Ireland, same in Serbia. For hundreds of years they've been messing around with our lives, especially when it comes to politics and revolutions, which were going on in Yugoslavia and during the kingdom, and later during the communist Yugoslavia, and after the communist Yugoslavia, and right now as we speak. But I don't know if they did it on purpose. I want to ask you, but they destroyed their own nation. British government destroyed their own people. They have mujahidins, they have jihadists running the cities and areas in London and around England. They have stabbings. Like, you don't have that kind of stabbings in Pakistan anymore. You don't have it in Afghanistan. You don't have it in Africa, but you have it in London. Like, they destroyed their nation pretty much faster than they did with the others.
Absolutely. Like, it's really mind-boggling. Like, my heart goes out to the people of Belgrade over 25 years ago. That horrific attack again by NATO, absolutely just horrific. And your people struggled and suffered completely, at the hands of those bloodthirsty, warmongering psychopaths. That's what they are. Like, much the same as what's happening across Europe now. Like, you see that in Britain, for instance. The way Britain, they have Starmer in control of Britain. Like, Starmer is a guy. It's just like, the funny thing is with him, and I want to tell you this, Mario. He was brought to power at the behest of an Irishman. There's a guy called Morgan McSweeney. He's an Irish guy, and he was sort of the kingmaker for Starmer and his government as well. But it's really not really about personalities and different people in charge. I think fundamentally the system rolls on regardless, and they implement it in different ways. And what they've done is they've destroyed the fabric of communities right across Britain. They've done the same. They're trying to do exactly the same thing in Ireland now, really at a fast pace. And the problems are, as I said, the stabbings are increasing, the attacks are increasing, the censorship is increasing because you can't speak about these issues. There's no crime stats essentially on who commits those crimes in terms of what nationality they're from. That's all hidden from people. The prisons are overcrowding in Ireland at the moment in terms of their massive capacity. Today, I read that there's 150% of the population of the prisons are sleeping on mattresses on floors, and they're not going through what the issues really are in Ireland, what people are facing, and people are had enough. So many people I've seen who are just said, we have had enough. We're standing together to put the interests of our country first. Our country is colonized by the British, by the English for 800 years. We struggled and fought against them to get our own independence. And what were we left with? We were left with 26 counties in a republic and occupied 6 counties up the north, benefiting the English establishments to this day and benefiting the Irish establishment. And we're left with the European Union. The European Union are an imperial power that is eroding any sense of sovereignty. They've taken over our monetary policy is gone, our fiscal policy is gone, our currency is gone. We have no control over very little, next to nothing. And all we have is in Dáil Éireann, we have 174 elected TDs. And it's like, I don't know if you know the expression, a Punch and Judy show. That's all it is. It's like what it is. It's like one person. It's just like a talking shop. One person says something, the other person says something back. Nothing gets sorted. No resolution, no policy, no solution. It's just like, yeah, we'll refer it to Brussels. Like recently, there was a case brought by an NGO in Ireland called the Immigrant Council of Ireland, brought a case to the European Union, European Court, about migrants not getting housed. They took a case, and now the case has been found in favour of those immigrants not getting accommodation. It was never taken for Irish citizens being homeless. Where was the case for the Irish citizens being homeless? Not taken, because it doesn't benefit the corrupt elites. That's all. They don't care about anybody, Mario. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about any of our viewers. They only care about themselves, and they care about the people they represent. They don't give a damn about ordinary people. They don't care who suffers and dies, whether it's a war or whether it's a housing or homelessness. It's about time people take the power back, and it's great to see people on the streets in Serbia. Week after week, they're on the streets after the horrific events, what happened there well over a year ago with those poor people that were killed. Absolutely just scandalous. And this is what's happened in Ireland as well is similar, because you've seen so many poor developments being put up, all for profit, all about money, not about serving citizens' needs, not about things you need for like a proper dignified existence, like proper signed off on developments or developments that are looked after and facilities for people and services, public and social services for people, for communities. That's what you need. That's how you build local in communities. And that's how if you make communities strong, you make your country strong, and you make a world strong as well, because everybody has to work together in terms of how we stand up for ordinary people and not be. We're not interested in war. We're not interested in fighting for anybody. We're interested in standing up for the interests of the people and the needs of the people. We want a home. You want a health service. You want an education. You want a job. You want to be looked after, and you want to get on with your neighbour. You want to get on with your community. That's what it's all about. People work together.
Yeah, it's just Peter. It's a simple math when you think of it. You have billions and billions pouring in, for example, to Ukraine for ammunition, for the tanks, for the functioning of their pension funds and their pay system and everything. And if instead of trying and giving your best to stop the war there in terms of peace talks and take those billions and give it to your own people and eradicate homelessness. They were talking today in France, in Paris. The whole European Union they came together and talk about giving money to Zelensky, and we know where that money is going. Instead of talking about eradicating homelessness, eradicating diseases, eradicating some other problems. There is so much problems in Europe, and now I'm telling you, like they're telling us, like, come and join us. Like, who is retarded enough to join European Union right now? If they called us 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe it would be different. But now, after everything happened, after we saw the fascism, the true face of fascism during COVID, hysteria, locking down people, fining people, giving them, jailing people because they didn't took experimental doses of Pfizer or AstraZeneca, and now they are telling, "Come, like we are democracy." Like, man, I can find more democracy. I can find more democracy in Congo. You know, it's crazy.
Mario, very eloquently put. Like, I just think it's ludicrous. Like, look at von der Leyen, for instance, with the Pfizer contracts. Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, and the text messages, and she still won't release those text messages. You look at the other day with this the GPS jamming, this event that went on to try to escalate the war in Ukraine, and nobody talks about the 2014, the Maidan coup. Nobody talks about NATO expansionism in Ireland. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. They follow what the government are saying and what the media are saying. And they're saying, well, maybe, they make it simplistic. Putin bad, Europe good. Like, nonsense. US, it's just crazy. Like, the lack of critical awareness, I think, has been done deliberately, I think, in terms of society as well. There's a lot of apathy out there amongst people. But at the same time, I started a campaign as well with a few others, Stop the War. When back in 2022, we held quite a number of demonstrations in Dublin. And we had one outside the American embassy. And I was speaking the truth about the war, about exactly what it was about, who it was benefiting. And it's come to pass now. The Nazis in Ukraine, that was all public knowledge in advance of 2022. Everybody knew about it. 2022, code of silence went up. Nobody spoke about those issues. We saw the issues in terms of the ban on the churches, the absolutely horrific treatment of the Russian Orthodox Church. People involved in any faith, respect your faith and your religion. That's a bare essential of a society. Like, in terms of respecting people. Journalists being jailed, killed. Some died in prison. I know Gonzalo Lira died in prison as well. This sort of stuff is insane. And they're saying it's about freedom, democracy, and values when it's anything but. In 2023, Ireland have a long history of neutrality. And in terms of, since the foundation of as a colonized country, we saw the horrors of war in terms of previous generations of Irishmen being going off to use as cannon fodder to die in wars for Britain, for imperial powers. And like back then, even to go back to 1913 in Ireland, there was a man called John Redmond in Ireland, and he was involved with the Irish Parliamentary Party. And back then there was a big move towards Irish independence. And he was trying to go through the parliamentary route about getting Irish independence. At the same time, we had the Irish Volunteers. And what Redmond did was split the Volunteers. And he said when the war came to Europe, in terms of what the imperial war with Britain and Germany in the First World War, he said that we had to fight them there because we wouldn't have to fight them here. So he abdicated all those men and split the Irish Volunteers. Many went off to their deaths in the Somme and many battlefields of the First World War across Europe. Young men killed and butchered in the name of imperialism. And at the same time in Ireland, a lot of men who stayed, struggled, and kept struggling on and fighting and taking a strike for Irish independence. And now, here we are over 100 years later, and they're using exactly the same arguments in Ireland. They're saying we have to defend our values, our freedom. And the Taoiseach last week let it slip, and he said, we have to defend the single market. That's what his approach is. They have to defend the single market. They have to defend the neoliberal policies. They have to defend the corporate elites. They have to defend the Black Rocks, the vanguards. That's who they have to defend. They don't have to defend ordinary people. So anybody who falls for any of this crap, that's what it is fundamentally, is really needs their head examined. And unfortunately, the propaganda, we need to break through that propaganda and stand up on the interests of peace. Look for what really caused a war in Ukraine. We know about the US, it's a US proxy war. Nobody talks about the Nord Stream explosion. They don't talk about the energy costs going through the roof. They don't talk about the big deal they've done with America, with the LNG, filthy frack gas coming across at 2 or 3 times the cost to Ireland, pushing your energy bills up. But they want to talk about rearming Europe, because the European economies are collapsing under what's been going on. The British bond market yields are at their highest ebb in years. At the same time, you see what's happened across Europe. It's deindustrialization. And now what their plan is now, okay, instead of fixing homelessness or fixing public and social services or helping people, as you said, diseases or whatever people will need help with, they said, no, we have a great plan. It's going to be called Rearming Europe. And we're going to take all of your money, all of the citizens' money, and we're going to use it to build up the weapons and build up the military-industrial complex. First of all, in America, because they have no capacity in Europe, benefit Trump's regime in the US, and at the same time now, they're going to build up the weapons in Europe and build up a weapons war industry. And they're building up the rhetoric in Ireland as well, and they're attacking Irish neutrality. The Irish political leaders are attacking Irish neutrality day by day. Over 20 years, they've used Shannon Airport, which is on the west coast of Ireland, as a military airbase for the United States, because essentially Ireland is beholden as a tax haven economy to the multinationals of a lot of the United States, and they allow them to use Shannon Airport. They turn a blind eye. It's like, yeah, we want neutrality, but we let them use Shannon Airport. So how many flights went back from the Middle East in the illegal wars in Iraq, so many illegal wars that the Americans were involved with, that flew through Shannon? First of all, with people going to Guantanamo Bay. Second of all, with arms being flown across. Arms are still being transported across Ireland now to Israel, and they're ignoring it. It's absolutely insane. And at the same time, what the Irish government are doing, and this is part of the process with the European Union, this is where the European Union comes in. Twice in the past, we had treaties in the European Union that had to go to the people. Back in 2002, there was a Nice referendum, and that was rejected by the people of Ireland, because we're probably one of the only countries in Europe that have to put any treaties to a referendum, thanks to a great man called Crotty back in the mid-80s in Ireland, who took a case against the Irish government because they were trying to push through this treaty, get ratified without discussing that with the people. So this was brought to the people, and the people rejected a Nice treaty on the basis of Irish neutrality and on the basis of the move towards militarism. So they got conditions there at the time of they went to a second treaty, a second vote, and part of the agreement, in that treaty, was to agree on a triple lock, which essentially meant that the Irish government could not send more than 12 members of our army or defence forces on an overseas mission. And this was part of the conditions of passing the treaty the second time. So then we fast track onto the Lisbon Treaty again. Same situation again. EU enlargement, opening up the single market, more power to the institutions, all this sort of stuff was slid in. We had a Taoiseach at the time, a man called Brian Cowan, who got on the radio, and he was absolutely pissed. He was completely drunk on the radio, and he was asked, have you read the treaty? Because he was at a big do for Fianna Fáil, that's the party in charge at the moment as well, coincidentally, in Galway. He got on the radio, he was completely drunk, at 8:30 in the morning, and said, I haven't read the treaty, but people should pass it. So this was rejected, and then part of going again, they asked us, even though it was rejected, they asked the people of Ireland to go again and vote on this again. And part of the conditions was to protect Irish neutrality. And here we have now an Irish government that has joined a NATO partnership for peace, they call it. They've signed over so many so-called non-lethal military aid to Ukraine. They've done it all bilaterally. They haven't done it through the European Union. And at the same time, last year, nearly 1.2 billion euro was spent on Ukrainian immigrants in Ireland. So they're making the money out of the immigration. And at the same time, they're giving more money for weapons, for army training, and all the rest of it that's going on towards more war. And now we have Micheál Martin, the Taoiseach of Ireland, part of this coalition of the willing. Today they're meeting in Paris. And he's going to be on a Zoom call. Like, nobody asked, remember the coalition of the willing? Go back to the Iraq war. It's a coalition of the killing. And I've been talking about setting up the coalition of the unwilling. We've no interest in war. We've no interest in, we want peace. We want peace. We want to get diplomacy. Ireland has no interest in being part of any imperial power. And even the media in Ireland, they're trying to claim now that there's Russian ships 200 miles off the coast of Ireland, and they might try and cut the undersea cables, which and this is all this propaganda. Yeah, like it's complete propaganda. Like Russia,
they're talking right now. Excuse me. They're talking right now about jamming the airplanes and the signal on the airplanes. This is like, now we have jamming, we have cables. We have Russian dolphins, special force dolphins. We have cats, Russian cats, which are like taking down Ukrainian drones. So like, I don't know. And Putin died 10 times. Yeah, that's the propaganda.
And they have shovels. Where's the shovels now? Like that, it's ludicrous. Like it's ludicrous. Like the bottom line is that, like, I've friends from all over Europe. I've friends from Russia. I know people from Ukraine. I know people from all over. And the people I talk to want peace. And they don't want war. Like, so the bottom line is that this has been pushed on by who? By the West. By the United States, of course, who recently, P. Hegseth said in Munich that it was about a division of labour. And essentially what that means is that he wants Europe to step up. And like, what's von der Leyen's plan? The rearming Europe plan, 800 billion euro. They won't solve homelessness. They won't rip up the fiscal rule book for homelessness, but they rip up the fiscal rule book when it comes to weapons of war, whatever serves their agenda. They did it the same during COVID. They transferred the biggest transfer of wealth to the billionaires. And it was the working class people that were most affected. And all of our rights were smashed because of those restrictions. Even in Ireland, it was just absolutely insane. But now they're trying to do the same thing again. But it's up to, people are waking up, thankfully, across Europe, which is great to see. And I think it'll be madness for any country to even entertain the prospect of joining this European Union, which is just moving in towards a totalitarian state. That's what it's becoming.
Yeah, this came to my mind. Like, I've been thinking of it like not like for a long time I've been thinking of it, because you mentioned referendums, and that is like a democratic way of resolving a question in a country. But what happens when they import enough migrants, give them a right to vote, and just cancel any question that Irishman or Serb will find differently, or give the answer differently. If they import like million migrants, they have like 10% of vote, like or 8% of vote tomorrow on some referendum. So I think when it comes to migration, it's not only about destroying one population or great replacement. It's also to keep these evil politicians and evil governments in power for a long time. But tell me, please, Peter, when it comes to agendas, globalistic agendas which are implemented around the world differently in different phases. We have Canada, which implemented everything even before China. You remember blocking of bank accounts, of the protesters during COVID. But in Ireland right now, how far did it go when it comes to agendas from World Economic Forum? You all know Harari. Do you have agriculture, for example? Are they destroying the farmers in Ireland?
Well, our industries have been, like, so many of our domestic indigenous industries have been destroyed, and that's been through the EU and through obviously what's going on with the bigger globalist agenda now as well. We had a fantastic fisheries industry in Ireland, local community fishermen. That's all destroyed because of the big industrial trawling that's taken place. The agricultural industry is really at the behest of big beef barons in Ireland. Small farmers are under a massive attack. Even now, what's happening now is that they're trying to cut down the cattle herd in Ireland. They're trying to actually say, well, it's the CO2 emissions from the cattle herd, cut it down. They've also, what they've done as well, this is the same time they're doing a deal with Mercosur, with the beef deal. You know, America started to get cheap beef coming in from South America, which is causing major issues for the Irish farmers. Another issue is with farmers, as the farmers have been massively, rural areas have been decimated. They've been destroyed. And now there's plans to rewild all these areas. So farmers that have been farming for generations and generations and know their land, and have done it for thousands of years on their land through all generations, they've been pushed to the side and said, this is part of the agenda. It's about the net zero agenda, the corporate climate agenda. This is what's been pushed in Ireland. They've also done the same with the peat. They've stopped Ireland cutting peat and turf, which was a big part of our keeping people warm and safe in their homes. And especially now with the energy crisis, they're importing, as I said, gas, LNG gas from the United States at 3-4 times the cost they were getting Russian gas at. It's going off the charts. And at the same time, there's a board pneumonia, which is like a peat burning industry in Ireland. Essentially, this industry is importing wood chips from South America to fuel this plant. So it's illogical. The stuff that happened is complete and utter nonsense. They're trying to cut down on people. Even after the times of COVID, the restrictions that went on during COVID were off the charts. They had like a 5-kilometer restriction during COVID. They had issues around the vaccination passports, which I spoke out about, and there was protesting against. We had about 20,000 people on the streets of Dublin against discrimination that was implemented with people, and it conditioned people into thinking this is part of a bigger agenda. They were even speaking about the 5-kilometer. You look at the 15-minute city. That stuff they're talking about. A lot of places around Dublin now, you see big developments, and they have this is part of your 15-minute city. They're trying to do the same in Athlone, which is a mid-sized town in the centre of Ireland, right in the heart of Ireland. There's plans to make that the first big 15-minute city in Ireland. So they've already pursuing this. And remember, the push towards digital currency as well. That's a big push in Ireland, because what they're trying, there's a man called Paschal Donohoe, who is the finance minister in Ireland for years. He's with the Fine Gael party, and he's also the head of the Euro group. So he's in charge of the finance ministers right across Europe and in terms of the Eurozone. And part of his agenda is to implement the central bank digital currency. And this is coming now in the next number of months. They've done reports on it. At the moment, they're doing sort of a phasing in project with a number of large companies across Europe that have agreed to trial this, and then they'll try and push it into use on the people maybe over the next short while. They'll probably use some sort of crisis to usher it in, maybe a financial crisis, who knows? But this is what their agenda is. And when you have digital ID, digital currency, total control, you're completely captured. You're enslaved to what they're trying to do. And like anybody who has, really any idea to what's taking place should be waking up. And a lot of it is being brought through Ireland, like even around speech and freedom of speech, which is vitally important in a democracy. Whatever your point of view, if you don't have dissent or somebody who disagrees with what somebody is saying, that's important, because how you get to the best policy is by involving people and arriving at those policies by engaging with everybody, not shutting them off and cancelling them or smearing them or calling them names or trying to censor them. It's trying to engage everybody, get people together, and then you can get the best policy. But what they're trying to do now is in Ireland, they have this broadcasting authority called Oscailga, which is Irish or Irish language, Comisiún na Mán, which again is known as the Truth Ministry in Ireland. It's like something from George Orwell in 1984. And they have been charged with the remit to implement the Digital Services Act right across Europe. So essentially, it's coming for Ireland, and it's going right across Europe as part of their plans. And again, the Comisiún na Mán has already given money, which is given money through the state, and given money to approved and recognised media outlets that they think will report the news that they want reported, not the real news, not the truth. They want people to be on their side, essentially, and then they will get paid for it. So it's all this stuff happening. You have all the big tech corporations based in Dublin. The European head offices are in Dublin as well, in Ireland. And a lot of international workers have come and worked in those places from very many countries, India and so many other countries. And they're impacting the housing disaster as well, because they're pushing house prices up for people. More, there's more people coming in who can afford, higher price houses. Accommodation costs are going up for people, and more people are struggling. So it's really, what's happening is, it's a perfect storm. But what you have is, you have a dangerous political establishment who are now using all their laws, and they're making up laws essentially as they're going along. They're trying to now, over the last couple of days, there's been reports that the police force in Ireland, which has been dwindling in numbers because people have the conditions are so bad. And if, most people, they're getting in very badly trained police officers now. When I was younger, you'd see a police officer, you had to be at least, I think, 6 foot high, 6 foot tall, 5'10", or you had a bit of a presence. Now it's everybody. There's people who can't even probably run 2 meters are being let into the police force. So because they're so desperate to get people. And what they're doing is they're now allowing them to use tasers. They're the new commissioner said we can use tasers now. And that's a step towards getting the police force armed. And who do the police force represent? They represent the interests of the status quo. They don't represent the interests of people. If you look back at Irish history, in 1913, there was a lockout where the workers asserted their power and came out in the streets and said they wanted to strike because they weren't allowed to join a union. And they came out and they stood out all together on the streets. And what happened? It was the Dublin Metropolitan Police at the time, at the behest of the big Irish capitalists, that bashed them off the streets, and a number of people were killed because of the brutality of the police force. And remember, that's who they represent. They represent the state. They represent the corrupt state, and also they represent essentially the move towards globalism in terms of what's happening right across Europe and a lot of the Western world in terms of the capture by the World Economic Forum and these unelected technocrats who are just controlled by the big corporations, the Larry Finks and all these people, the Black Rocks and the whole lot.
When we look around Europe, especially European Union, but every country in our continent is, if it's not in European Union, it's controlled by Brussels, and it's the same thing, which is the same problems that everybody is facing. Okay, in Serbia we don't have the laws that European Union has, but which is good, which is really good, and us as Serbs, we are working on it, so we don't come closer to European Union ever. But when you look around European Union, you have elections all around European Union, but you have, for example, the situation in Romania, for example, with Calin Georgescu, where the man won and they banned the elections. So are the elections the way out, or you think that people need to rise up and gather themselves, as you said, okay, in communities, but there is not much time to, we have, I think, 5 more years until 2030, and that their goal is 2030. Their plan of new normal, of global reset is 5 years from now. What's the cure for it? What's the way out? Is the way out for the Irish people to vote for Conor McGregor or something else?
I'll tell you the truth. We're not going to vote our way out of what's going on. That's being honest with you, because you saw what happened in Romania. The banning of elections. These are the people that stand up for democracy and freedom. Remember that, democracy and freedom. It's all a game. It's all a game to them. The bottom line with this is that it comes from the streets. It comes from communities. It comes from the ground. It comes from engaging with people. For instance, through your platform, Mario, and thanks again I really appreciate you having me on about speaking about this, because it's important that everybody who's listening to this, it speaks to their neighbours, speaks to their work colleagues, speaks to their friends, and gets the conversations going. And on top of the conversations, if you have a social media platform, use it, because they're going to come down and try and shut it down at some stage. But at the same time, it's up to people on the streets. That's where power comes from. It comes from below. It comes from organising in your communities, getting together in your neighbourhood, meet once a week and get those discussions going and hold these people to account and people will win out, because you know what? I have fantastic faith in the spirit of humanity and the spirit of people. And people, no matter what, will keep struggling on and keep fighting, because without struggle, there's never any progress. And that was even Frederick Douglass who spoke that nearly 200 years ago. With no struggle, there's no progress. Full stop. And that's how it's going to come. It's going to come from people on the streets in Serbia. It's going to come from people on the streets in Dublin. It's going to come from people on the streets right across Ireland, because people have had enough. And it's about keeping your ideological differences to the side, or whatever people think about certain issues. Keep whatever. People aren't going to agree with everybody on everything. And that's just a way of life. And which is a good thing, because that's the way you should have discussion and talk about issues. But what's important is if you can stand together in terms of what your country needs and what you want from your country. If you think your country should serve the needs of your citizens, which is a basic right, it's in our Irish constitution, then yes, you should stand up for Irish independence, stand up for Irish sovereignty, stand up for Irish democracy, stand up for Irish neutrality. That's what you should be doing. Whether you do it across Europe, it's the same struggle and same battle. I've fantastic, as I said, friends right across Europe, and we've great history with the Irish and the Serbs in terms of the Celtic history amongst our great proud countries and proud nations who have all struggled and been suffered and killed at the imperialist interest. We've no interest in war. We've interest in peace. We've interest in trading with countries and respecting countries, respecting the individuality and the nationality of each and every country. That's how people should stand up. And that's the biggest thing, how we can struggle, fight against this globalism, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for total control, digital currency, enslavement. They can tell you exactly, if I went to a protest, I'm going to be cut off. Good luck. You forget about it. I'll be in a gulag or something or whatever. Like, that's what you want to put people in. This is like something from George Orwell. This is off the charts. You want people to stand up for us, as I said, our sovereignty, but that's going to come from the streets, Mario. It's not going to come from any politician. So thinking, I'm going to mark an X on the paper and I'm going to go home and said, well, I've done my bit and I lost. Well, that's it. No, that's when it starts. It starts by you engaging with what's going on around you, the world around you. It starts with you in your local communities, looking at what's going on in your community, looking at the developments that are going on, looking at the homelessness, look at the real issues where old people are left behind. Why? Old people can't afford to heat their homes. Like, this is crazy. These are a continent that is exceptionally wealthy and has a lot of money, but whose hands is the power in? And there's more of us than them. Far, 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 far more of us than them. But it's up to ourselves to use platforms like yourself, Mario, and many more. I'd encourage people to start their own platforms and speak out themselves on what's going on. And also go to demonstrations. Don't be afraid to speak out about what's going on, because fear is the biggest thing that holds back people. And they probably say, well, what changes? But change does happen. It comes from below. It always comes from below. It doesn't come from a benevolent leader or somebody who's going to be, I'm going to solve all your problems. That doesn't happen. It's going to come from us all working together across the world, in our own countries, in our own communities, but also working with people, like-minded people right across Europe and right across the world. And that's what's important, because people know. I started, like, even my own experience, like I've been campaigning for years and activism and stuff, but I started even doing my own videos over a year ago on YouTube. And the reason I started doing it was to sort of channel what's going on out to people. And it's great. The reception I've got, it's grown very big over the last year. And it's all, I do a lot of reporting on what's going on in Ireland, and it's important that people are engaging. And like, sometimes they might feel isolated. You might think, well, does anybody care? Does anybody listen? People are listening. People do care. And power to the people. That's where it comes from, Mario, and that's where it stays. It starts with the people and it ends with the people. Forget about the politicians. Forget about all those people that will say they'll bring you to the promised land, because they're just wolves in sheep clothing, essentially. And it's up to us all to stand up, what's in our heart and what's in our soul, to stand up for what's right. And we all know what's right. It's in our conscience. It's in our soul. And that comes from our ancestors, and it comes from our, all our families and our generations that came before us, Mario. That's what I feel. And that's what drives me. And I'm sure it's what drives everybody else. That's in the sense of our heritage and our history. And it's so important to keep that flying strongly, because they want us to forget about our history. They want us to forget about our heritage, forget about our culture. And I respect everybody's culture, everybody's history. And wherever you go, that has to be top of the agenda. In Ireland, you go through villages and towns now, and all you see is like Starbucks, Costa Coffee, the same crap everywhere, essentially. Like, you want to go in and see what's important, what makes this town an individual, what makes the town special. Where's the person that's lived here for all their lives? Where's the community gatherings? Where's these spaces for people to meet? Like, this is how we have to go back to, because we have to go back to, we're social beings, and they've tried to do it through COVID by keeping people apart. But we have to come back, connect together again, and come back together as humans.
This is what I wanted to say when I was listening to you. When COVID started, the first rule was social distance. Like, the first rule was social distancing. It was not physical. It was it was social. So we don't talk around. So we don't give our opinions to each other and change someone's minds. So we don't influence on people, because, okay, their idea was put them in front of TV every day. You say to them, like, how many people will die, how many people are dying from COVID, and he cannot go outside and talk to me on the street, so I can say to him, like, fuck them, man. This is you're right here, like, gather people, small communities from your block, from your street, talk, spread the news. This is also important.
Exactly. Absolutely, Mario. And I think what's important, the social distance, and the point you're making of that is very important, because we had in Ireland, we had a chief medical officer, a guy called Tony Holohan, and we're going to have elections soon in Ireland. It's like election of president. It's going to be held at the end of October. And he was talking about running for the election. This guy, he said, he came out and said on the airwaves, do not hug your granny. Do not hug your granny, he said. Like, talk about human touch. Talk about human involvement. And especially if my granny was alive, God bless her, I'd love to hug my granny, and nobody would tell me not to hug my granny, like, or anybody. So it's nobody's business. It's nobody's business about anybody's medical choices. It's nobody's business. It's not my business. It's not anybody's business. And on top of that, what they've done is that they've gave so much control that it's truly like, if you look at it, I think it's even more deeper than this, Mario. I think it's even more spiritual around what's going on, because, you can really sense the evilness amongst people, amongst what they're trying to do. And, like, if anybody was in a relationship or any sort of relationship, they had a friend that carried on like that, they wouldn't be friends with them. So, like, why are these people given so much authority and given so much exposure? Because why? You have to ask yourself why. It's not because they're interested in your health. In Ireland, they had a thing during COVID where he said we had to shut down everything because we had to protect the health service. The people had to protect the health service. I thought the health service was supposed to protect the people.
The health workers. Health workers were so busy that they made choreographies and danced during the COVID, but a lot of people learned the lesson. The demonic elite is trying to implement their final agenda of global reset through categories. They had COVID. Now we have war. We have the enemy from Russia, which is going to send the ships and cut the cables. Then we have our security. When it comes to money, digital IDs, we have Tony Blair, who is the main guy behind digital IDs. Then we have CCTV cameras. It's also because of our security. Everything is because of our health security, but nothing is for our health, and nothing is for our security. Their final goal is to destroy us as a population. Like, they don't need you and me. They don't need us. We are problem to the Orwellian world. We are the biggest problems in the new world.
But the human spirit, Mario, we have the human spirit. The human spirit will, as I said, it comes from ourselves. It comes from our soul. And this is more important. And it comes from, you know, that's where it comes from. And that's what's important, I think. And it's a big message to get out to people as well, that more people use their voice and speak out. And you think critically, think for yourself. Don't follow what the media are telling you. In Ireland in particular, we have RTE. They're a state-funded broadcaster. At the moment, they're getting €725 million over the next 3 years to push the government's agenda. And, you know, they're known as prostitutes in Ireland because they're just corporate lackeys. That's what they are. Most people who work with the media then get jobs as government advisors. So, like, it's a big corrupt cesspit that we have to clean. The complete cesspit. It needs to be completely drained. And it will be drained because the more and more people that are speaking out, which is fantastic, and coming out on the streets, change will happen. And it will happen. And that's where it needs to come from. It needs to come from the streets. It needs to come from our communities. It needs to come from our locations, our cities, our towns, our villages, our great, beautiful people. That's where it has to come from. It has to come from us. It's not going to come from anybody else. So God bless the people of Serbia, and God bless all your viewers, Mario, and God bless yourself, Mario, for all the great work you do as well. Like, I know you do fantastic work, and you know, and your heart, you know, is in the right place. And God bless you, and my full support to all your viewers. And I'm very grateful that you had me on to speak about all these issues. Like
Peter, really, this is the first time we talk here on cameras. We are going to, we've been in contact before. We're going to stay in contact and do much more. This is I want to say to people, and I know that you know that, and I know that you have the same opinion. This is not just a podcast. This is not just an episode. This is an ideology, and the ideology is freedom, and we are going to get ourselves free, or like we are going to finish how our ancestors finished, trying. So there's not other option for it. You know, there's no place for surrender. And I know that two of us, and I know that you're doing a fantastic job in Ireland, in Dublin, and I know that you're going to spread around even more soon, because people are searching for a voice of reasons in their communities, in their countries. There is a lot of people who are scared, and you're not one of them. You don't know the fear, and this is why I think that maybe somewhere down the road, 1,000 years ago, our ancestors, Serbs and Celts, Irish, met somewhere, and we did good in history, yeah. And I think that we are going to do good in the future, Peter. So really, thank you very much for being my guest. It was an honor talking to you. Say hello to the beautiful Irish people, a beautiful country. One day I will come there, and I know that I'm going to love it, because Ireland is one of the top 5 countries that I want to visit, and I love you people.
You'd be more than welcome, Mario, and the invitation's there for you as well. Anytime you want to come over, more than welcome. And you know, we'll show you around and show you really what Ireland's really about, not what the politicians portray it as, but show our true history. And that history is from the people's history. That's a real history, the history of struggle, the history of struggle for, and that's true our songs, that's true our songs, our poetry, our literature. That comes from, and it comes from our heart, it comes from our emotion, and it comes from our language, it comes from everything. And that's something they can never take from any of us, whether it be Serbs, or whether it be Irish, or whether it be whatever nationality you are. That's essentially what we came from. We didn't arrive here in a spaceship or a bubble. We came because of the product of all those generations of people that came before, and God bless all them as well, from all countries as well. So Mario, again, thanks very much from the bottom of my heart, and I'm very grateful for having me on, but also for, you know, spreading the word about what's taking place right across Europe, and keep up your great work about trying to get more people together from around the world to build a bigger bond, because they want a one world government, but we want a one world humanity where people come together for decency, for reason, for sense, and for our individual rights and freedom to be upheld.
Thanks so much, Peter. Stay tuned, stay online, just for me to finish the show. World, you have heard Peter Dooley. You have heard our brother from Ireland, from Dublin. I know that you have similar opinion, and I know that you are fighting yourself against demonic elite and the cabal. It's not a joke. It's not conspiracy theory. I think that everybody is seeing that they want to control our lives, or if they cannot control us, they want to destroy us. So if you want to know the truth, every day, every single day, catch me up on X, catch me up on YouTube, follow me on YouTube. Also follow Peter's channel on YouTube. I will put the link in the first comment, and see you soon. See you soon, guys.